He will pluck your dreams while you slumber and reinsert grisly, gruesome nightmares. I am talking about none other than Wes Craven, the late, great master of horror. May he rest in peace. And welcome to Markham's Arkham. I am very excited to bring you this episode tonight, today, whenever you're watching, because we are going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite films, 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is the film that saved New Line Cinema, who was in bankruptcy at the time, and then Nightmare on Elm Street came out and it brought them back into the black. New Line was then dubbed The House That Freddy Built. Starring Heather Langenkamp. Oh man, I have such a hard time saying her name. John Saxon, Ronnie Blackley as the neurotic, overzealous mother of Nancy. In his first role ever, Johnny Depp. And of course, in the infamous yet iconic role that you love to hate, hate to love, however you look at it, as Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund. Wes Craven, in various sparse interviews over the years, had stated that his inspiration for the film was based on two events. The first one being when he was a child, looking out his window one night, he saw an old man across the street who had noticed Wes looking at him, ducked into the darkness of the shadow of the bushes behind him, and then gave Wes this sinister smile and a gesture. I guess it haunted him for the rest of his years or childhood. He carried that with him into his adulthood, apparently. The other event is in the 1970s, there was this phenomenon called Asian Death Syndrome. There was an article in the LA Times that this family had escaped the killing fields of Cambodia and moved to Los Angeles, and their son had had nightmares on a nightly basis to the point where he just tried to force himself to stay awake, but eventually fell asleep due to exhaustion and had a nightmare again and died in his sleep, apparently from the nightmare. But there were a number of Asian men or boys who were dying from these nightmares or dying in their sleep. There was never an explanation for this, and it was only happening to these specific boys or men who came from the Vietnam era and ended up dying in their sleep. That brings us into this wonderfully unique, original tale of a child slasher who's murdered and then haunts the dreams or the nightmares of the surviving children of the parents who murdered him, only to be able to kill them in their sleep. This film is in the slasher genre, but to me, it goes way beyond what a slasher film is because of that metaphysical element, that element of the beyond. He's not a slasher going around stalking kids in real life. He can only get to them through their dreams or their nightmares while they are asleep. So it brings that fantasy element to the film. He's undead in a sense, but he's more of like a dream demon or a dream monster, and he's a spirit, but a spirit that can manifest the realistic event of what you're experiencing in slumber. So, in a way, Wes Craven kind of takes a ghost story and combines it with the slasher story and brings the two together in this amazing example of the two being blended to create this original, awesome, unique, brilliant story. Wes Craven also had his hand in the slasher genre already, in a way, more the psychopathic, you're invading my territory or I came across you and I just want to be a sociopath on you genre. Before Nightmare, with The Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left, which sort of both have slasher elements to them, so it's not something that he was a stranger to, but he brings together two unique things in this film, more or less a ghost story combined with a slasher. In its uniqueness, it gives it this palatability. It makes it intriguing, interesting. It keeps you wanting to watch. The way that Robert Englund delivers the character of Freddy Krueger. One thing I want to say about this, for those of you out there who are not really that familiar with the original film in the series, is that later in the film series is when he starts becoming more comical, more of a character of himself, and delivering everything in more of a slightly comedic way. In this film, Wes Craven's original Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger is a sinister, brutal, methodical, antagonistic, evil being. There's no comical delivery with him in this film. Freddy is dark. He's dark, and it's obvious the intention of Wes Craven behind this character was, this is an evil being. This being murders while you are asleep. You're not safe. You're never safe. Let's talk about the special effects. The first murder in the film, Tina, who is killed in her parents' bedroom with her boyfriend sleeping in the bed next to her. He wakes up during the assault and pulls the covers back to find the claws coming through and raining blood out. Wes Craven just had a brilliant design and effects team and special effects team for this film. Phenomenal work, just top-notch stuff. The cinematography, it's just perfect in the angles, the way he got the juxtaposition of her boyfriend being there, yet she's rotating around the room and he's stationary. Some other great scenes in the film include when Tina's boyfriend, who after she was killed, he was blamed for the murder, and so he's arrested and put in jail. And while he's in jail, Freddy hangs him with a sheet tied into a noose. The effects in that scene are really well done. Also, there's some things about this film that Wes Craven, I think, really played on to really make Freddy as a villain really eerie and even more creepy than he already was. Not only does he have this hand of razor claws that he forged himself in order to commit his murders, he's also scarred head to toe, and he looks just gross and creepy and sinister. He just looks like a nightmare. On top of that, there's the brilliant scene where Nancy is sleeping in bed. There's a cross hanging on the wall, and the cross pops off the wall. And then you see Freddy, his impress out of the wall, hovering over Nancy while she's asleep. It's one of the most brilliant shots in the film. It's a great scene, building on the whole stalker aspect of Freddy as a character. The performances are great. John Saxon, excellent performance. Heather Langenkamp, great performance. Ronnie Blackley, she plays the character so well, the neurotic, overprotective mother. There's one aspect of her character and the psychology of her character in that she seems to be traumatized and suffering from a PTSD over what they did to Freddy, even though it was justified. And then there's the scene where Heather's boyfriend Glenn falls asleep when he's supposed to be on watch for her while she's sleeping to go and try to get Freddy to bring him out from the dream realm into physical reality. It's just mind-bending special effects. It's like Wes Craven was like, a bucket of blood, fuck that. I want oceans of blood, man. I want blood fucking drenching the fucking room. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I don't know if I could say any more about this film or if there's really any more to say about this film. It started a phenomenon. It's iconic in the originality of the character of Freddy Krueger, and Wes Craven cemented himself as one of the iconic directors of the genre, mainly for developing the character of Freddy Krueger. There's only one real campy thing in the whole film, in my opinion, and it's the scene where Freddy calls Nancy on the phone and his mouth comes through the phone and licks her face. Other than that, I mean, a brilliantly done film. Just flawless in its approach, in its direction, in its delivery. Now, a little bit of nightmare trivia. Apparently, you could see Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger getting ready to come out. You can see him crouching down, getting ready to pop out at her. So I'm going to run both sequences here. I'm going to run the widescreen first, and then I'm going to run the full screen. We'll see if you can catch it, see if I catch it, because I don't think I've ever even really seen it or noticed it. I haven't looked for it since learning this little bit of trivia, but let's go through it now. That's pretty interesting. I never knew that before, and I wonder why, just because it's pan and scan versus widescreen, it makes it stand out. You can see it more when you're, because, you know, full screen is actually cropping off the frame of the film as opposed to expanding or adding to it. And so you're losing frame of reference, actually, with full screen. I hope you guys enjoyed being here. I hope you appreciated my take on this awesome film. That you click that like button, subscribe button to help the algorithm so more and more people can see this. Artists, musicians, yodelers, scuba divers, interdimensional beings, intergalactic beings from beyond and above, angels, demons, everything in between. So they all see this. Click that like, click that subscribe button, so it helps the algorithm to help them all see this video. Thank you very much for being here. Hope you enjoyed my take on this film, and I will see you next time. Peace.